Welcome to the Dr. Nikki Starr Show, a podcast to support you in your spiritual awakening and personal development. As a spiritual teacher, healer, and intuitive coach, my intention is to empower you to live your ultimate potential and your ultimate life. As a former medical doctor and mystic, my role is to bridge the gap between science and spirituality to support you in understanding more of your multidimensional aspects. I share on a diverse range of topics, and it's all to support your greatest becoming. My mission is to continue reaching millions of people for the healing and awakening of humankind for the creation of the new earth. Thank you for being here. Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nikki Starr, and today I want to talk about some of my favorite topics. And you might be thinking, what? This is your favorite topic? Yes, it is, because it affects how we are in our relationships. It affects our spirituality, our life, our business, everything. And so the topic is honesty, transparency, integrity, and truth. And I want to talk about and also loyalty. And I want to talk about the nuances of all of these different topics that are different for everyone. These are a high value for me in my reality, in my life. And therefore, I get along better with people who also value these things. Now, note, not everyone is like this. Some people believe that the white lie is best. Some people believe that it's better just not to say anything. I come from the lens of high spirituality and divine union relationships when it comes to romantic relationships, and also the highest integrity of friendships, and also in business with clients in what we put out into the world. So what do I mean by all this? So I want to define each term, because it's also an opportunity for you to see where you are on the spectrum, because not everyone operates in the same way. And when we're entering into relationship, whether it's romantic or friendship or even a business relationship, it's a really good idea to share about, hey, what are the rules of this game that we're playing? The game meaning the relationship. So honesty is when you tell the truth. So being an honest person, you tell the truth, even if you're going to get embarrassed, even if you feel shame because maybe you did something what you think could be quote unquote wrong, or you might think that the person doesn't like what you did. Being honest means you tell the truth. If someone asks you a question, you share the answer of what the truth is, right? It's truth telling. When you're honest, you're a truth teller. Now, I laugh about this too, because I've been known to be kind of like bluntly honest. And I think that's a product of being a New Yorker. I also feel like in our family, we were always really honest. Or, if we were like, does this dress make me like not look good, make me look fat, whatever. It's like, yeah, not that dress. So I grew up in an environment that really fostered truth telling. I don't ever remember getting in trouble for telling the truth. So for me, honesty is gold. It's just allows everything to be really clear. We were really honest in my household growing up. I really appreciated that. We talked about everything at the dinner table. And I feel like that honesty really continued on in my life. And when it comes to spirituality, honesty is a big part of that, right? Because we want to be honest with ourselves. And generally, when you start to not tell the truth, you start to even maybe lie to yourself. And then here is where you can get in all sorts of trouble, because the truth always comes out in the end. And when you lie, you have to keep track. You have to keep track of all your many lies, especially when you're around someone who has a really good memory. So why not just save yourself the trouble? tell the truth, and then you never have to worry about remembering anything. Now, I do have compassion and I understand why people don't tell the truth and why they lie. So, for example, if when you were a child, you got in trouble a lot, you learned to lie as a self-preservation technique. You learned, okay, what are the answers that my parents want to hear? And I also know that an existential wound of the masculine, I know that women also have wounds and women also can lie too. But for men, they avoid feeling guilt and shame at all costs. It's kind of like, because men and women are different species. And so this is why sometimes men lie. They want to avoid guilt and shame. Also, some people lie because they want to avoid conflict or confrontation. Now, telling the truth is not going to always create conflict, of course, and it's always how we say things too. So I can have compassion for why you might want to lie sometimes, and maybe you learn to lie. I know recently I was spending time with a friend, and she told me that she witnessed her dad often tell white lies. And so she kind of grew up thinking that's just what people do. So then when she went out into the world, she would do that too. She would say, yeah, I'm leaving, but she wouldn't leave for 10 minutes if she was going to meet someone. And then when she entered into partnership, her partner was very much like me. He really valued honesty, transparency, telling the truth. And over time, she had to unlearn the behavior, which she thought was harmless. But for her partner, he had good reason to say, my time is really worth something. In that 10 minutes, I could be doing something. So I rather you just tell me the truth, because then I can make good use of my time. That's an example, right? And so this is why we just need to learn each other. When you enter into relationships, different people expect different things. So if you were ever in relationship with me, I invite you to tell me the truth. I prefer honesty above all, because when you're dealing with a very intuitive psychic woman, we could feel where there may be deception, omission, leaving things out, not telling the whole truth. And we're going to get into transparency next. And so that's why, especially as all of us are going through a spiritual awakening, we're becoming more psychic. So you might feel something uncomfortable in your body, but you don't quite know what it is. This could be a part of you being a lie detector. And so if you decide you don't want to tell the truth or the whole truth or nothing but the truth, so help you God, people around you may feel like, I don't trust this person and I'm not really sure why. So it's to your benefit for people to really trust you instead of lying to try to make yourself look better than you are. And then in the end, like I said, with time, truth always comes out. Why risk people not trusting you? Just start to tell the truth. Be a truth teller, be honest. And you can even, if you're not sure if something you want to say the truth about is going to hurt someone, or you feel like it's going to cause a conflict or whatever, you can even say, are you sure you want to know the truth? You might get upset. Can you promise, or can you please not be upset if I tell you the truth? Right? You can preface that if that's one of your fears and reasons why you might not want to tell the truth. Right? So honesty is so gold when you want to create deep, deep connections and deep, deep relationships. And I highly recommend it. Get into the practice of it. You can preface it. You can even say, like, I'm a little bit fearful to tell you the truth. And this can help prepare the person to receive the truth, right? So next we get into transparency. So I love transparency. I think it creates even more trust than honesty, because sometimes honesty only comes out if you're asked. So if someone asks you the question, then you share the truth. But if no one asks, you don't say anything. But transparency is when you say it. No one asked you, but you know that you would want to know this information. So for example, let's say if you are in a romantic relationship and you go somewhere, or you have your phone and suddenly your ex-partner messages you, or you're out and about and you see someone, volunteering that information to your partner, I feel creates the utmost trust for divine union. And the reason why, so this isn't just about romantic relationships, but even in partnerships, relationships, work. So, for example, with clients, my clients who get the best results are the ones who are transparent and honest. They're like, I don't know why I need to tell you this, but I need to tell you this. And sometimes it's about things in their life that they maybe are ashamed of, or things in their life that they wouldn't, I have things that clients have told me that they have never told anyone in their whole life. And it always serves. And what's funny is a lot of times I have intuitions about things and I allude to an aspect of it, and then it like reminds them, and then they decide to just tell me. And it's like volunteering information when you're transparent. So, for example, if you find yourself in any kinds of situations that, if anyone found out, let's say, I go back to the romantic partnership because I do feel like that's where it really matters, because in divine union, essentially you're in a tantric union. And in tantric union, you're using the opening of your sexual energies to also awaken consciousness for healing, for ascension. And it only works, it's kind of like a lock and key method, and it only works if the utmost trust is built. It requires love, it requires respect, and it requires trust. So transparency is like, I know that my partner is going to tell me everything. I never have to worry about anything. Whatever happens, they will volunteer the information. Now, this serves because if you go and you do something and you don't say anything to your partner, and then a few weeks later, you see someone who your partner saw and they're like, oh yeah, I saw your partner at this place, and they didn't know you were there. Trust is broken. It's not worth it. And when you think about it, when you're in relationship, even if it's friendship too, I feel like it's a really good idea to be transparent in relationships too. Similarly, let's say if you're part of a friend group and some of you go and have an experience together, you go to an event or have a meal together, and let's say someone wasn't invited, if it's not shared and then it's like they see it on social media, it could create a bit of this like lack of trust, sisterhood wounds, for example. It can reignite those. So, in my opinion, it's really great to just share. If you think any information pertains to a person, or if they would find out they might be upset with you, share. It's better to share. The truth always comes out in the end through weird ways. We never know how. Just share. So that's transparency. And so now, you might be one of these kinds of people like, I don't want to know. It's better for me not to know. You could communicate that, but don't take it back. And really what I believe is you don't want to know because whatever part of you has wounds and traumas that need to heal. Ultimately, you want to be in a relationship, a friendship, a romantic relationship, a business relationship, a family relationship, where you both can talk about everything. It's such a safe space to talk about everything. And it takes time to learn that it's a safe space, and it takes time to be a safe space. And it's with practice. But ultimately, you want to know the truth. And if you don't, it's better that you find someone to be in relationship who also prefers not transparency. Like there are some people that like, I don't want to know. There's some people in a relationship where it's kind of like an unsaid open relationship. That's okay. People can create whatever relationships they want. That's not my preference of relationship. I'm more of an advocate for divine union because I'm here to live my ultimate potential. And so my romantic relationship must serve that. And so for my relationships to be of highest service, they must have honesty and transparency from both sides. Otherwise, we're lying to each other, and then we're lying to ourselves. So transparency creates even greater trust. Like, hey, I just want to give you this information. And you think like, wow, this person really tells me everything. It's so beautiful. Next is loyalty. So I'm a very, very loyal person. And it actually triggers me because I'm so loyal. If you are a person who's not loyal and I witness it, it affects me because it's infringing upon my moral code, my values and ethics. And I don't want to be a part of that. So loyalty, in my opinion, is when you keep highest integrity and honor the commitments you make. And I'm going to talk about integrity too as well next. So maybe we'll talk about integrity now. So let's just take a break from loyalty for a minute. So because it feeds into, like, loyalty is honoring honesty, transparency, and integrity. Loyalty is honoring all of that. So integrity is when you honor agreements. You do what you say you're going to do. Goes along with being honest, right? So not lying, not cheating. Integrity is following through on your word, following through and acting in alignment with your values. And also it's acting in alignment with you making the world a better place. Like, being in integrity means, like, for the highest good of all, right? So for example, let's say for an example of business. So I've always thought of, I'm very entrepreneurial in my spirit. I've thought about opening different things. I once had a clothing line that I thought, well, if I'm going to open a clothing line, I want it to be organic. I want it to be made in a fair trade way. And that's exactly what we did. We had organic fabrics with artisans in Peru. And so the way it could have been even better, actually, is instead of it being in Peru, these artisans would have been in the US, because at the time I was living in the US. Now I don't live in the US, so, doesn't. I actually value worldwide brands because I live internationally relative to the majority of my followers. Even if it's shifting now, I feel like I'm becoming more international as a brand because I now live in Spain. But the point is, I would never, with my knowing, start a clothing line where it's like a sweatshop. Like, that would not be an integrity. Absolutely not. Like, it needs to make the world a better place, which means the people who are working for the company, like, what's more important is taking care of humans, not making as much money as you can, for example, at least with my values. But I think that's the same for everyone. Being a person of integrity, you never want to hurt people, right? So that fair trade, meaning people get paid fair wages, that they're treated well, right? So slave labor would not be in alignment, for example, right? Like, I even have tried more and more to buy less from China just because we have heard about the work conditions for some people there. So I remember when I was buying plates for my Malibu house, I ended up getting ones made in Morocco because I just didn't want to, like, spend all this money on stuff that came from China, because I felt like I don't want to support that. So my integrity is even like, how do I vote with my dollars? Where do I give my dollars to? Right? And similarly, if I, like, for example, farm raised fish, I think it's bad for the environment, it's bad for humans, I will not eat farm raised fish. Like, maybe rare, like, I don't know if there's like nothing else to eat or something. But even that, like, I rather not eat sometimes. Like, I really rather not, or I'll just have a vegetarian dish because I just can't do it. Right? So for me, similarly, in relationship, if I tell my partner, right, when I'm in relationship, that I'm going to do something, then I'm going to do it. If we make an agreement, then it's my responsibility to honor it, or else there's no relationship. Every relationship can have different agreements. Like I said, some people can choose to be in an open relationship, but whatever rules are decided between the couple, you both honor them. And so, for example, since I value divine union relationship, it is monogamy that is transparent and honest and loyal. And so now we get into the loyalty piece of, okay, so what is loyalty? Loyalty is when you put the priority on what you value and you honor that first. So, for example, if you are in a relationship, a divine union, monogamous relationship with someone, you value them above all other women and people. So, you would never put yourself in a situation that could risk that. For example, if you meet someone, I actually witnessed something with my own eyes not so long ago of a woman who was married and also had children, and it seems like her and her husband had agreements that were unspoken because she was doing certain things, like, for example, connecting with a man. And what I mean by connecting is like talking to, exchange numbers, spent some time together. And then I said, well, would you tell your husband that? And at first it was just a hug for a long time. And so I said, well, would you tell your husband that you hugged for this amount of time? She was like, well, I don't think it's really important. And also I've hugged some of our male friends for a long time in front of him. And I was like, yeah, but that's different. You're in front of him. But now that you're not, would you? And so for me, I felt like that was not being loyal, because I hold a really high standard when it comes to loyalty. I hold such a high standard to loyalty. Sometimes I think it's too high. So, for example, if someone, let's say if my partner has conflict with someone, I will distance myself from that person to have loyalty to my partner. Now, that might not always be the best thing, but it's like, first and foremost, I honor and I value the person I'm in relationship with. So when I'm in partnership, I'm not going to go and hug a guy for a really long time. I'm not going to go and spend alone time with a guy that I feel ignites some kind of sexual energy inside of me. Why would I play with that fire? That is not loyal. I would not exchange numbers or start to message someone. So, for example, even men in relationships, if you're liking the photos or following women who are like boobs and butt girls, you know what I'm talking about, that is not loyal to your partner. Anything that's going to evoke sexual energy from you, that's another woman. No. Same like pornography, like, no. You have a partner to do that with. That's not loyal if you go and decide to take care of yourself using pornography or images of another woman. That is not loyal. That is not an integrity. Right? So it's like being so in integrity and loyal that you would never do anything or say anything that you wouldn't do when your partner wasn't watching or next to you or around you. It's that high of a level. Are you there in your partnership, in your relationship? And then looping it back around, are you transparent if something were to happen? Maybe by accident, maybe you met someone, maybe you saw someone, then do you say, hey, so-and-so messaged me, or, I was at the store and I saw this person, or this person came up to me and they like started hugging me and whatever, and, I backed away as soon as I could. Like, are you transparent? And then if your partner asks, do you tell the truth? Where are the wobbles in these areas for you? And they're connected to boundaries. To be these things, honest, transparent, and integrity and loyal, it requires discipline, a high level of discipline. And integrity could even be small. Like, for example, if you tell someone, and this goes for men too, and I want you to know it actually really matters to women. I feel like it matters to women more. Like if you told a man, like, oh, I'll call you tomorrow, and then you don't, I feel like men don't care as much. Even though women, I think it's important to be as in integrity with your word. But as a man, if you tell a woman that, she will notice when you do not call her the next day. Women are very in tune and on top of these things. So the reason why is it's like built in our DNA. If we are looking for, let's say, based on genetics, like a provider, a protector, because that's what the masculine role is, and if he isn't consistent, then we're not going to trust. And so then we don't want to have offspring with you, if you're a man listening to this. And if you're a woman and you are hard to be trusted, then a man's not going to want to put a ring on it. He's not going to want to claim you. So it works both ways. For that commitment, that consistency to be there, all those things are needed. The same is true in business. If someone feels that you're not honest, in integrity, transparent, loyal, meaning keeping confidentiality, why would they trust you to pay you? Whether you have a product, right? If you're out of integrity with your product, you're getting it from the sweatshops, people, if they found out, they might be like, I don't want this, right? So being super clear, honest, transparent with your creation line, with how things are done, etc. And so some things that help to create trust can be consistency, but also what creates trust, let's say if you are someone who shares work in the world, is sharing your story. People get to know more about you, how you handle things. They get to see your life being a testament. And it's over time, like truth withstands the test of time, right? Like I have been in this game since 2012. You can literally go back, and I think, wasn't my Instagram? Yeah, my Instagram was created in 2012 or 2013. No, it's 2012 because I remember I was in Spain. Oh my gosh, just realized my first post, I was in Spain. I believe I was in the south of Spain that I ever posted. And you can see my whole journey. I'm transparent. You know, some people decide to like delete stuff because their frequency changes. I don't. I'm happy to keep everything there. So you can see, like, this is who I am. I have no secrets. I have nothing to hide. You can trust me. Like, that's basically what that says. I'm not like, oh, I have to hide this part of my life or this whole period of my life. I'm just going to delete everything from there. No, it's all part of the journey, right? So where can you be more transparent, more honest, more in integrity with yourself? And it can begin small. Like, even if you catch yourself saying a lie or almost saying a lie, be like, oh no, actually, it's this. Just correct yourself. Being like, actually, it's not that, it's this. Or be like, you know what? I almost didn't want to tell you, or I left a part out because I was scared you were going to get upset or whatever. But this is the whole truth. Or you could say, do you want to know the whole truth? I'm leaving a part out because I'm a little bit scared that you might be upset with me. That's how you begin. And we start to build that trust. Now imagine imagine relationships where we were all honest, transparent with each other. That's how it's meant to be. This is how we create trust. This is how we create connection. This is how we're able to be in integrity more, because if you know you're going to show up to be honest and transparent, then it's going to almost force you. I don't want to use the word force, but I should say inspire. It's going to inspire you to be in better integrity because you know you're going to be honest and transparent. And loyalty is so beautiful. That's what kept tribes together. You know, before there was modern day world, the tribes stayed together because of loyalty. Where, okay, you went with the tribe. Now, I'm someone who's definitely a pioneer, and I have loyalty to myself first, of course. And when we're in relationship, we can still do things in integrity. So for example, let's say if you're in a relationship and then you meet someone else, it's an integrity to tell your person you're in relationship with, and then you can choose to end that relationship and end the agreements, but you don't go behind the other person's back and do something out of integrity, right? So you can just communicate, change the agreements, maybe end the relationship, and then you can go and be in an integrous way entering into a new connection, right? Similarly, like you can in your business decide to change things. You then just communicate with your clients and you say, moving forward, these are the new agreements, or this is what I can offer you here and there. And you just communicate, right? And you're allowed to change your mind and change agreements. Just communicate. So like we talked about, integrity is honoring agreements made. And of course, the agreements can change. You just communicate what they are. Perfect. You update them. And you update them before you take further action. That's an integrity. So my intention for today's podcast, and I trust that it inspired you to create better connections, better relationships, whether it's romantic, friendship, family, friends, business, because our relationships are everything. They're what create our reality. We're social mammals. This is a social experience, a social experiment being a human. So the more we can be in integrity, honesty, transparency, and loyalty, we create greater trust. And with that trust, we can move mountains together. And so I thank you for showing up, for contemplating this, for doing your work, your part to be in more honesty, transparency, integrity, and loyalty with the people you love, care about, and want to be in relationship with, and want to deepen in relationship with. And this is a lot of the work we do inside of my programs, my containers. I have my ultimate relationship course. I also have one-to-one work. And so if this is an area that you would like further support in, because sometimes we need to heal things from the past, from our childhood, from past lives, from past relationships. We have to heal these aspects of ourselves so that we can show up with greater trust, with greater transparency, with greater honesty, integrity, and loyalty. And so I thank you for doing this great work. Reach out with me if you want to go deeper. And big kiss to you. I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Dr. Nikki Starr Show. Please like this podcast and share it with anyone you feel would benefit. Subscribe to the podcast to receive bonus content, and remember, every Monday the video version goes live on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being on the Ascension path with me and for doing this great work.